So I don't really know what's going on in the world. I know Bert's got a thing on. I know the comedians got together. I've spoken to Eddie a few times. I've spoken to Joe maybe once. I've spoken to Theo. I talk to Simone every day, Dean every day. But I don't really know what's going on, like specials and shit like that. So I got a call from a friend of mine in Texas who's an old comedy club friend, my old Coke dealer at one of the comedy clubs. He was the manager, but he also supplied all the comics with Coke. Good guy, you know. I still keep in touch with him. I don't do Coke, but I still keep in touch with him. And he called me to ask me if I had seen the new Louis C.K. special, that it was very funny. And I'm like, Louis C.K. has a special. So right away, I don't know, that night I went on Netflix and I didn't see no Louis C.K. And I'm like, what am I fucking thinking? He got thrown off of Netflix, you know? And then my life turned into whatever, and I forgot all about Louis C.K. And then 2 days later, I go on Twitter, and there's this big write-up by Time Magazine or New York Times. It's either one of those two, that Louis C.K. released a special amid this. So I click it, and I'm reading it. I want to see what the fuck, you know? Because in my mind, I'm thinking something completely different right now. So I'm looking at this review, and it's racist, and it's dark, and he explains what he did, and blah, 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 blah. And I finished the review, and sure, the guy who wrote the review didn't like it, and he was pissed off that Louis released it. You know, kind of, sort of.
You gotta expect that.
This is what I was getting. But me, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. You know, I'm looking at it now from like, this happened in 2001. It got brought to light after he blew up. I don't know that I heard about cover-ups and shit like that. Listen, guys, not for nothing. I heard about something happening in Aspen in 2001. Whether it was 2001, I heard something happen in Aspen with Louis. I didn't know what. Now, have you guys ever lived the life of a comedian? Have you lived the life of a fucking rocker? Have you lived the life of a person in the public eye? It's got its perks and it's got its negatives, okay? One of the perks is, for some reason, women lose their fucking mind over certain things. When the movie Motley Crue came out, The Crew, whatever, on Netflix, it opens up with him eating a girl's pussy that was a squirter at a party, and it was, you know, that was Motley Crue. They came over to fuck, you know.
Right.
And Rudy Sarzo said to me, I go, what did you think of the movie? And he goes, I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. He goes, it's just really hard to understand all the Me Too. How come people aren't freaking out more about Me Too? Because that was a different time. That was the 80s. It was a different fucking time. You know, I'm not saying it was okay to rape women or put sleeping pills. I don't know anything about that. But what went on the road was just, you know, it was mayhem. I've sat here with you many a night. One night, especially up the top of the corner here, when I was still living up the corner and we talked, I was shaking. I'm telling you of all the fucking crazy encounters you have as a young comic on the road and how crazy they really are, you know. And you can look at it from two ways. You look at it from any way you want. I mean, it's just, it's a weird way of living, you know. And now we're seeing it through the years with Harvey and fucking Cosby. Now people's eyes are getting a little bit more woken to what happens out here. And, you know, so you get mad at a guy like Cosby and Harvey. But there's another side to the story, and that's the side of meeting a celebrity or sleeping with a celebrity or getting help from that celebrity, okay? And let me tell you something. I always knew, for some reason, I got an early idea early on that nobody could help you in this business. I got it figured out that the people I liked all stood on that stage alone, and that really nobody could help you. I mean, it's the craziest thing that you think that somebody could shine light on you. Yes, somebody could say, Diana Ross could walk into a room and say, I like the Jackson 5. But the Jackson 5 still have to do their work. Do you know what I'm saying? And once you realize that, but for some reason, a lot of women come out here, they're a little on the hot side, you know, they know it. There you go, a little garlic fart for Lee. I told him one was coming.
Always you spray that shit all the time.
Wait
Right
till you
now.
got a whiff for this. This will kill Corona, Corona's cousin, and every fucking body.
I think that's where Corona got started.
This'll
Forget
kill
the bad in Wuhan.
This will kill everybody in Wuhan.
Oh,
so
God damn it.
you
Spray that stuff. You spray that stuff eight times an hour.
No, I don't want to spray it now. You need this garlic in your lungs. It's good for you. It'll unclog one of your little heart valves. That's why I eat it, to clean out my valves. But anyway, getting back to what we're talking about.
No wonder all these women slept with you.
No, this nobody slept with me, but I'm just saying that there's this weird thing that a hot woman comes to town. You got to see it, first of all. You have to see when new meat walks into an open mic. That's what it is. It's new meat. She goes on stage, she bombs, and every comic all of a sudden thinks she's great. The girl is a 6, and God forbid the girl go up there and say she's single. Fucking, you ever see the sharks, how the fins come out of the water? That's exactly what happened when a girl shows up to an open mic with a pretty dress, and she's like, I've never done this before. I need help. I need pointers. Every barracuda comes out until they realize she's not going to suck their dick, or she's going to suck their dick, or they have a boyfriend. It really changes for them. So that's what, and you've seen it. You've seen it. Once you see it, you go, oh, that's why everybody. You're a guy. You go up there, have a great set. Nobody even wants to talk to you. All of a sudden, some chubby girl comes in with big tits, and she's got no bra on. Oh my God! All the comic scholars come out.
It happens a little bit, not as much, but I've seen hot guys get a different reaction from people too. It's not as crazy,
but nobody wants. A guy doesn't want to fuck a hot guy, and 3 girls aren't going to circle a young comic to fucking give him advice like 3 guys will circle a young female comic to give her advice. It's big differences. So when a girl comes into a comedy club, she's new fucking meat. You know, and that's a sad way to put it, but it's fucking true. So now this girl has to struggle, but before she can become a comic, she has to struggle her way through what the fuck is real and what the fuck is not real, which is tough right off the bat. You got to decide what's real and what's not fucking real here. So it's tough enough for a female comic. I'm not saying a female comic is wrong, but nobody was right and nobody was wrong. So my take on this is that they're all partying, and Louis asked the girls to their room. He's the hottest comic up there at the time, or one of the hot comics up there at the time. I don't mean looks. I mean he's fucking destroying.
Right.
They go back to his room. Is this what happened?
I thought it was the green room, but it could be possible. It's either
whatever.
one.
And he asked them.
Yeah.
He asked them.
Absolutely.
And they giggled, and he took his dick out and he jerked off. Did he come?
I don't know, but I've heard stories that some people said yes and some people said no, and if they said no, he wouldn't do it. That's what I heard.
And then now, other women came out and said he jerked off in front of them, or that he was jerking off while he was on the phone with them.
Both. Sarah Silverman said that he would ask her occasionally. She said sometimes she would say yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird.
But. So it's a very weird look. But come 2016, 15 years later, they finally get enough momentum to knock the kid off the pedestal. Okay, whatever pedestal you want to call that. Stand up, his fame. He loses money. I hear one of his daughters isn't talking to him.
Wow. He had a movie that was going to come out too. At that.
Yeah, something else happened. Never mind the monetary losses. Just what he lost in character, what he lost in shame. Here's a guy that's a perfect candidate for you to call up, and when somebody calls you and says, did you hear about Louis? What, he hung himself? Yeah. He was the perfect candidate.
Yeah.
He was the perfect candidate. You know, I even hear in his routine, he talks about, which I'm going to watch the special. I hear he talks about, going to restaurants and people flipping him off and shit. What he did was not tough. Now, we have a moral dilemma here. What does it take for us to forgive Louis? In my world, I have daughters. It's done with. It's done with. And I'm going to tell you why it's done with. Because he went away like a man. He hid like a man. I think he seeks some type of therapy. You know, I heard something from, I don't know how true it is, you know, because I always ask. When I speak to certain New York comics, I ask about Artie. I ask about, you know, just to see how the fuck are they doing.
Now, let me ask you your opinion on this. You just mentioned forgive him. Do you have to forgive him? Could you just enjoy his special and see that he is a fucked up guy, but I enjoy his stand-up? Like, do you have to fully forgive him to be able to watch the
That's
special?
a great question. Between me and you and the third fucking wall, I have no power to forgive him. Who the fuck am I? Who the fuck am I?
It didn't happen.
So you're right. Who the fuck am I to forgive him or not forgive him? I'm just telling you how I feel about it. In my world, it was 15 years ago. He did not go up and make negative tweets. You know, OJ saying that whatever killed Joe Exotic. I don't fucking know. You know, he hasn't made derogatory tweets. He hasn't rubbed it in anybody's face. He's just a guy that sat home, felt he took his lumps, which is what an American person does is we go home, we take our lumps, we figure out what went wrong, and we either shoot ourselves or move forward. So I have to applaud Louis for moving forward. Again, he didn't bother anybody. There were signs up at clubs. If you want your money back, you can have your money back. And then what did he do? Did he come to the Comedy Store and try to bother people? Did he come to the main room of the Denver Comedy Works? No, he went to different little rooms. Little rooms where it doesn't matter to those people what happens in Hollywood. You follow me? They know Hollywood is a fucked up place. You know, they don't give a fuck when Brad Pitt says to vote. They don't give a fuck. Hollywood does not influence them at all. He went to all those rooms and did a bunch of those rooms from what I heard and sold out. Then he went up to Canada and he did whatever the chain is up there. And I heard that guy got a bunch of grief. And he sold out all the shows. And I heard it was 40% women and they were up on their feet and clapping too. So what was the purpose of this fucking article that Time wrote? And maybe it was the New York Times. I know New York Times wrote one. I don't know if it was Time or the Post, or I don't believe nothing the fucking Post says anyway. I stopped unfollowing those fucking liars a long time ago. They're just fucking liars. You read the New York Post, they even make up their own bookmaking lines. You go to Vegas, they're giving 7. You go to the Post, they give them 5. What the fuck did I just miss? Because they make their own fucking lines, the Post. They think they're fucking cute. So, you know, I read this fucking thing, and I'm like, what is the point of this? I tell you what Louis did that I liked him the most out of this. He didn't advertise it. He didn't hire a publicist. He didn't bother nobody to go on his show. He released it off his own webpage.
Yeah.
And this is the smartest trick out of everything. And it's not a trick. It's marketing. What was his other CDs priced for?
$5.
Why did he charge $2.99 more if he's irrelevant? Because he knows that for $5, anybody will buy it. But for $7.99, you really got to like him.
Yeah.
And he didn't want nobody watching him that didn't want to watch it. He made it comparable to a Netflix. He made it comparable to a Hulu. I don't know what Hulu is a month, or Netflix.
But if you remember, he was the one who started that $5 per special thing. He started it.
So why didn't he go back to $5? He went to $7.99 because he wanted for you to really think about if you really wanted to watch this.
Right.
You really have an option to turn this off and not watch it at all, move on with your fucking life, and never to mention Louis C.K.'s.
And like the other side, like with the thing that you mentioned at the beginning, how like something good will come out of it, like some like you'll either get a new job or this and that. It kind of relates to his story, and I don't know. He made a ton of money, so we might have savings.
He has savings.
Imagine not working for 3 years.
He's a great comic. And when I was an open micer, he was already banging out comedy, writing fucking scripts.
But he couldn't work for 3
jerking off
years.
all over people. You know, yeah, he didn't work for 3 years.
That's crazy. And not even like with this, with Corona, you kind of can't work, but there's still jobs out there. Imagine getting.
He stayed in. He paid
picketed.
his dues. He didn't go out and call the chicks cunts on social media. He did nothing of that.
No.
I have to tell you the truth. He acted like a gentleman. And he acted like somebody that deserves a second chance. It's time that, you know what I'm saying? We got people dying by the minute here. We got, the world's coming to an end if you listen to Eddie Bravo and Q5 and fucking Q syndrome. And, there's a lot of shit going on. So for you to fucking take the time out of your busy day to write an article about Louis, and at the end of the day, this is what pisses me off the most. You ready? By you writing that article, you're making the guy a millionaire.
Yeah.
So what you intended to do, I love it. Listen, I come from the day of Brian Bosworth, when he would go into a stadium and there'd be people lined up hating on Brian Bosworth, and a bunch of people with masks that said, I hate Brian, or whatever the fuck they were. But what nobody knew was he owned the company. I loved it when I was growing up, and you guys boycotted Dice, and you broke his albums, and you did all that stuff. What happened? He got even bigger. He played the Garden. And you fucking 12 little lonely chicks were out there with your bald heads. He hates abortion. You're selling more tickets because you're making people stop to see what the fuck is going on. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in your life. You got something to say. Shut the fuck up. And you hurt the guy financially. But for you to write an article in the New York Times, to put the guy down because he released a special that's going to make him $1 million, you just enabled him.